大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello and welcome to LupinRecap vs. PatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Luca Masi, and with me is my lovely co-host, Fefner Masamune.
Alright, so, just load up a playlist of those, Joker gun synced up with various songs, one of those playlists, and just play that over this episode. Perfect fit.
I believe the official name for that meme is Joker Shoots the Rhythm. Not to, get on you for not knowing meme names, but it might be easier for our audience to find. Because that seems to be the name people settled on. Anyways, we're a recap and review podcast. And today we're talking about episode 34 of Lupin Ranger vs. Bat Ranger. But before we do that, let's have a brief chat on deteriorating mental states in fiction. No reason.
Everything's fine.
This is the problem with these prompts, they kind of spoil what's about to happen. This is something that I feel is rarely done super well. There's plenty of fiction where a character, has a mental breakdown, and for the most part they all look and sound the same.
Yeah.
You know the lines you're going to get, you know the delivery those lines are going to get.
Extremely Eternal Darkness voice, this can't be happening!
But one of the examples that stands out as being really, really good, Nier Automata 9S.
Oh boy.
He doesn't really do the obvious ones except at the very end, literally his last cutscene. He gets a little too into it. Mm-hmm. But up until that point, he's all over the place. Sometimes he's really somber and stoic, other times he's losing his mind.
Yeah, that one is painful to watch, but purposefully so, not the it's badly done sort of
right.
one.
It's very well done. And it's hard to really quantify what makes it so much better. The obvious thing is that they don't do the lines and the deliveries that you would expect, at least not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it is also just being used to him being the, not comic relief, but the upbeat character.
Yeah, he's a goof.
Even when you see his more cynical side in his route, you don't expect that from him.
I certainly didn't.
And then he just does an acrobatic pirouette off the fucking handle and lands in Madness Valley.
So, of course, for once I am actually on the ball with this prompt because I have been watching Gundam, which has good and bad examples. A good one is Amuro. Poor Amuro.
I love Ava, and people talk about Ava, but Amuro did it first.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna use the word inconsistent here, but not in a bad way, because he's inconsistent. It's not just an immediate drop to, oh no, he's completely corrupted by war and all that, but there is a point at which he goes, back home, and during that episode, he does just chase some enemies back to their camp in the middle of nowhere, a camp that does not matter, and proceeds to just sort of decimate it. So, he's doing war crimes, and a lot of it seems to correlate to when he's allowed to sleep. Because there are times when Amuro's a little bit better, he does better, and then there are just times when the military is just punching him down, just using him constantly. And then, of course, there's the episode with his dad, and his dad is a little more of the typical example of he's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That episode's good more because of the idea of what happens to his dad, not so much the example itself.
Yeah, it's just sort of the Hollywood brain damage. This is what brain damage is like, right, Tamino? I don't think it's particularly respectfully done.
Probably
but it's also not played for laughs, so it's not as bad as it could be.
Oh, yeah. I just think it's a little overly simplistic. But his dad...
they had one episode, so they just had to get through it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Amuro figures the low oxygen of the planet has given him brain damage, and of course he's been obsessed with Gundam, which, certainly isn't significant to the overall themes of the story, it's just completely out there, certainly.
Alright, I have to talk about this now. Mazinger Z, the first, real super robot show to have a piloted robot like this. The creator of the robot was, I think, either Koji Kabuto's dad or grandpa, who basically abandoned him to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why every other, dark and edgy robot has the pilot's dad make the robot and prioritize it over their child. Mazinger Z has a bit more complicated relationship with it. In Shin Mazinger, the one that the G Gundam director made, it's his grandpa who makes it, and his grandpa explicitly doesn't abandon him. He still lives with Koji and raises him, but he just, at night, goes to build this robot.
Yeah.
It's really great and interesting. But the thing I wanted to say about Amuro, I feel like he gets kind of overlooked because Char exists.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Char is the interesting rival, and Amuro is just the super vanilla protagonist, right? No, Amuro has some stuff going on. He's dealing with some things.
Much like Char is obsessed with Gundam and the white base, the fan base is obsessed with Char.
Yeah. A lot of Amuro's characterization I can't really talk about because it sort of settles into the really interesting stuff outside of Gundam 79.
Mm-hmm.
But even in the original show, you mentioned him being inconsistent, but that's really just an accurate portrayal of response to trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
Some days you're fine. Some days you're not.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that in a negative way. It's not a bad writing way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everyone's on the same page. It's just Amuro. It's just what Amuro's going through.
Yep.
Yeah, to me, the moment that I remember of Amuro is we see the second Amuro develops PTSD. Is one of the early episodes where there's a huge fight and he walks back to the base and everyone's like, "Welcome back, Amuro. You did it. You saved us." And he doesn't talk to anyone and just walks right to his room and stares at the wall. That is the image that has stuck with me.
Yep.
Mobile Suit Gundam has a ton of problems. There's half of an episode devoted to a cook on white base trying to get salt, and is played dead seriously. But it has a lot of good things to it.
How can you cook a proper meal without salt?
I'm sure it's an important part of nutrition, but you could have just said water. You change it to water, and this becomes a lot less stupid. Yeah, I think part of the reason that people like Gundam The Origin so much is that it's going back to those characters and parts of that story with more of a budget, more of an idea of what the franchise is like, and more sensible writing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like Amuro kind of gets overlooked as a portrayal of trauma in a protagonist. A lot of people just go oh, a lot of people list Gundam as an example of oh, how come it's always a teen piloting it? Amuro's just weird and can pilot a robot after reading the manual for 30 seconds.
He's really... He's good at reading. He likes technology, and he's good with it, and that he ends up being a good pilot. And the fact that he is a teen is important. And that he should very much not be here at all.
Yeah, it's sort of contrived in the sense that, it just so happens that the person with the most experience by the time we get to a place where they can replace the pilot is the teenager.
Yep.
But they do something with it. The contrivance sets up a conflict, not a resolution, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of Pixar's laws of storytelling. Coincidences are allowed to create conflicts, but not solve them.
Yeah.
But anyways, we've talked a lot about things other than Lupot.
We should really be getting back to Lupot. So, episode 34, The Legendary Gun. Today we begin with a juror trio, 2/3 of which are carrying groceries. 3 guesses as to who's being lazy here. A basketball rolls to Kyrie's feet, so he picks it up and throws it back to the kids playing. But as the other 2 leave, Kyrie stands there in a fit of brother-based PTSD. Umika snaps him out of it, but not before we get a few more flashbacks from Kyrie. The rest of their trip is mundane, but upon their return to Jur, they find that Goody is already there and freaking out. Noel's in trouble, as he'd gone after a collection piece in the Arsene Lupin's secret hideout. The collection piece in question was one of Lupin's favorites, the Lupin Magnum. This is the toy you're gonna want to buy, kids.
Yeah, I can vouch for this toy.
Umika and Tuma understand that they need to go save Noel, but Kairi notes that he would also like the Magnum. On that semi-worrying note, the intro.
Yeah, I think I should clarify something, because a lot of people throw around the term PTSD as a joke. We're not using it as a joke. Neither of us are psychiatrists, but I think it's pretty clear that Kairi is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, absolutely. He gets locked in there immediately.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that one of his triggers is just basketball. Because in fiction, especially, and like people's perception of it in real life is that a trigger has to be something important, big, and grandiose. But sometimes it's just a thing that you associate with the trauma.
Yeah.
Like he hated his brother because of basketball, and then when his brother died, he can't look at a basketball without thinking of his brother.
Mm-hmm. Like, it is significant, of course, but like, the event itself is what's played a lot in the show, but it's, of course, not really the only thing they struggled with when his brother was still alive.
What I mean by significant is that people think that a trigger has to be like violence or a gun or,
Yeah, it's not the moment where his brother is killed in the alleyway. Like, he doesn't keep flashing back to that.
He's fine with ice. He works in a restaurant. He'd have to be fine with ice.
Yeah, actually, he doesn't really flash back to that one much at all. I don't think we've seen that one all that much outside of the beginning of the show. But the basketball thing he keeps coming back to, because that's one of the most defining moments for his relationship with his brother.
Yeah, he's less upset that his brother died and more upset that he fought with his brother so much in the time leading up to his death.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways.
We then return to Hell, where we get the title card, the legendary gun. Tigranio and the boys are talking about a ganglar named Cerbero, who is a gun nut. After their conversation, we find the Unique Guns of the World exhibition as it explodes, and a ganglar flies out of it, admiring the single gun he stole. There's a theme to this episode, folks.
I forgot he robbed the Unique Guns of the World exhibition.
To think it was being held here on this day. Oh, what a tragedy. Anyway, the Skangler goes on his merry way, admiring his prize. He also refers to it as a cutie. But Gun Pervert is interrupted by the global police, who recognize him as the guy that's been going around and stealing guns all over town. Which is impressive considering this is Japan.
He has them all. He has every firearm in Japan.
There's a lot more ground to cover in the US, so he's just doing Japan first.
This is his warm-up. You can't just start in the US.
Yeah. Even he'd get tired at some point. He's got to get his legs stretched out. Gun Pervert is happy to know that he's got a reputation, and the cops respond by kaisatsu changing. And in case you didn't realize this was a Lupin episode, they get their full intro, so we don't have to pretend that they're important later. As they start fighting, the Phantom Thieves find Lupin's hideout. As they enter, Yellow asks Goody to tell them about any traps that might be coming up. Goody is certain he can help out since it's his second time in there. And as they walk along, Red notices a plate with the word Brice on it. Goody then mentions a trap door, and the Phantom Thieves stop, only for a boulder to appear from the hallway and come barreling towards them. Goody swears that wasn't there the last time, as he's hit and carried away with the boulder. The thieves, however, are fine.
I can't believe Goody is fucking dead.
Rip.
Also, oh no, we've entered into a roguelike.
Well, at least we have Jackpot to replace him on the next run. Back at the gunfight, Nigu gets the bright idea to bank one of his shots off a wall, which catches Gun Pervert by surprise. The Pat Rangers take the opportunity to start firing, but Gun Pervert creates a wall from the earth in front of him, giving him the perfect cover.
So now this character is obsessed with getting new guns because he thinks they look cool, and he can create walls around him. In the fandom, this is generally accepted to be the Fortnite character. And because of the Sonic 06 fan dub, I now just associate Fortnite with Mephiles.
You see, Pat Rangers, I don't get a lot of sleep because I stayed up all night playing Fortnite.
Sonic like, well, I'm not a gamer, so maybe women will respect me.
Tsukasa just shakes her head no.
See, here's the thing. We're on this tangent now, but here's the thing. Saki and Tsukasa are just Silver and Blaze in that fan dub. There's not a clear Keiichiro analog, but...
Alright, next up, somebody's just gotta be shouting constantly. Damn you, Robotnik! Gun Pervert then uses his cover to fire at the support beam of the structure the Pat Rangers are under, causing a small collapse. As the Pat Rangers escape, Nigu wonders aloud how supposedly normal guns could be so powerful. Gun Pervert explains that he has the ability to control the oxygen levels in the air. So, he's pretty dangerous. It's a good thing he's got a gimmick, or he'd have a lot of different uses from his natural ability. But before the fight can progress, Gun Pervert's arm starts a-barking because it can smell something. I would like to point out that his design rules. He is 2/3 of a Cerberus, given the name and all. So his arm, or his shoulder, is just like a dog skull or a wolf skull.
Yeah.
That does seem to have a mind of its own.
And he just has this huge, flintlock rifle. It's great.
Gun Pervert says there's another cutie waiting for him and escapes. Nigu realizes he must be talking about another gun, so the Pat Rangers begin pursuing him. Back at Lupin's hideout, the Phantom Thieves are dodging spikes. Red notices another plate with Tess written on it, so this must be one of Todd Howard's dastardly schemes. Also, there's a suit of armor attacking Umika? He's just sort of there all of a sudden?
I completely forgot about this when we watched it. I thought I was going to lose my mind.
And Tuma tries to elbow it. It's great. Before helping out, Kairi looks around and sees yet another plate with Fairs written engraved on it. He then joins the others in shooting the armor until it explodes. Thank you for your guest cameo, Ghost Armor. With those traps disarmed, the Phantom Thieves ascend a staircase and see the Magnum. And also, Noel passed out in a corner. He's alive, though, so what about that gun?
Yeah, before we saw Noel, we joked that he was going to be in the armor. He was just going to show up with his clothes burnt, covered in ash. I was in the armor, you assholes. I was trying to ask for help.
The thieves take off their masks for some reason and wonder what took Noel out. Kairi recalls the words he saw written throughout the hideout and writes them down for Tuma to read, wondering if they're French words. Brise tes fers translates to break your shackles, and when Tuma says the phrase, the Magnum emits a blinding light and Umika suddenly finds herself in a clothing store. And who else is she approached by but her friend Shihochi.
I think,
by her friend Shihochi.
I can't remember if her name is Shiho or Shihochi because it's a little, inconsistent in the subs. I think earlier you referred to, Chin as a variant of Chan. But I think what... according to the subtitles, her name is Shihochi, and instead of calling her Shihochi-chan, Umika calls her Shihochin. And just puts an N at the end instead of a full Chan. I don't know if that's a thing that people do. I am not super familiar with Japanese honorifics. I just know Chan. I know what Chan means.
Yep. I've seen an anime once.
And I know what senpai means. But I'm not 100% sure what her name is because of this inconsistent sub. It's definitely Shiho.
Yes.
Shiho something, but if we just call her Shiho, we would know we've got the name right.
Yeah. It was Shiho earlier, and now it's changed, and I'm confused. Meanwhile, Tuma finds himself cooking alongside Aya. And, of course, where else would Kairi be but alone on a basketball court? And, well, less alone, his brother standing behind him. His brother goes in for a hug, but Kairi pushes him away. All three of the Juror trio know that this is an illusion. Everyone takes out their versus changers, and we cut back to the non-illusion world, where Goody is waking Noelle up. The two of them see the Juror trio frozen in place. Back in the illusion, everyone is firing at the walls, trying to escape. Tuma wonders aloud how he's supposed to break the illusion, until he turns to Aya. All three illusions put their arms up, as the group realizes what break your shackles means.
This is such a good moment, because up until they started holding their arms out, I thought the test was going to be like, won't you stay in this dream world with your loved one forever? But instead it's, no, you have to kill me.
Kill me now, come on, do it, coward.
Jesus Christ. In this kid's show.
Tuma, Umika, and Kairi train their guns. But Umika can't bring herself to shoot her friend. Nor can Tuma shoot his fiancée. Both of them drop to the floor, at which point they're both hit with dozens of green psychic arrows before kind of returning to reality. They're unconscious, but they're out. Kairi, however, still has his gun held up. His brother tells him not to take a shady path for his sake. Kairi thinks back to what Kaitro said some time ago during their duel. Kairi then goes over to a lone basketball and says that he is the same type of guy, meaning his brother and Kaitro, of course. But he then says that bright sunny stuff doesn't suit him. He throws the ball and misses again, and he tells his illusion brother that he's tried all his life to be like his brother. Also, the basketball bounces across the frame, and then Kairi is suddenly in his Phantom Thief outfit. It's a really good effect.
Mm-hmm.
Kairi says that he's going to do things his way to bring his brother back, and fires.
God, this scene. So, like, once you see, Umika and Toma fail, and you don't see Kairi at the same time, you know Kairi's going to succeed.
Yep.
And I was really hoping they were going to just cut to Kairi holding the gun, and he would just immediately fire, and there would be no discussion.
Yeah, I'm fine with this. Bang.
Then he just, he gets the gun, and Toma's like, hey, so I'm pretty sure I know what you had to do to get that. Do you want to talk about it? No, I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. But I think because this is for kids and they wanted to do something this dark, they needed to explain it to the kids so the kids wouldn't worry. Because the thing he says right before he shoots his illusion brother is, I'm going to bring you back. And I think that's important. Mm-hmm. I think that was a good decision.
Yeah, it makes sense that way. Because then you'd have to infer a lot if he just fired, whereas, here he's just like, yeah, no, I got my own way of doing things.
Yeah, if he fired, it would have been ambiguous as to, well, did he just prioritize saving him that much? Does he care that little? Having him explain things is important with an audience this young.
Yeah. Also, one line I really like from Tuma during these scenes is the one where he's like, if it were anyone else but you, I could fire.
If it was Kairi, I'd shoot him twice.
So basically, if the Lupin Magnum were blue, then the test would be, can you shoot everyone else? How fast can you do this? No, you can't be friends with everyone, Noelle. You fail immediately. Last case surrounding the Magnum shatters, and Kairi wakes from the illusion. As he places his hand on the collection piece, a pillar of light appears behind it, and an image of Arsène Lupin can be seen. He congratulates Kairi on his fortitude, and entrusts him with his favorite gun. He whips his cape around, and the beam disappears. As Kairi takes the Magnum, the cave begins to collapse, so the Phantom Thieves dash for the exit. Outside, Gun Pervert has finally arrived at the cave, his shoulder barking furiously. Just then, the Phantom Thieves shoot their way out of Lupin's hideout. They have no clue who he is, but Gun Pervert knows when he's found a gun, evidenced by the fact that he howls alongside his shoulder. Gun Pervert starts firing, but Kairi's not going to give up his new toy easily. The group Kaito changes, and they fight. After a commercial break, some Podamen charge in from nowhere, and Lupin Ranger Here We Go starts playing. Blue equips Magic, Yellow equips Splash, and X just does his usual thing. After a brief portion of the fight scene made just to show off the Lupin Rangers using their cool abilities, the fight shifts to Red in a shootout with Gun Pervert. Thanks to Gun Pervert's safe ability, he is able to avoid most of Red's attacks, but Red is undeterred. He raises the Magnum up, aims, and fires a blast that shoots right through Gun Pervert's barrier. The cops arrive on the scene just in time to be impressed by the Magnum, and react accordingly. Gun Pervert is unable to defend himself as Red keeps firing through his earth barriers. Once he goes down, Blue leaps in and enters his safe combination, 1, 0, 1, and takes the collection piece. He gets out of the way, and Red approaches, equipping the Magnum to his Versus Changer. We also get a new sound clip in the form of Lupin Fever! 1, 2, 3! When Red raises Magnum, a circle of bullets forms and compresses into one big bullet for the seizing Big Big Pig strike. Gun Pervert is blown into many large smithereens. Gauche wanders in and brings Gun Pervert back to life, and leaves in a fairly neutral fashion. Good Striker wanders up to Red, confident in his ability to help this time. They form the Lupin Kaiser and Ex-Emperor Slash, and begin fighting. But for once, the Lupin Kaiser is actually pushed back into a wall. If this weren't the episode pushing the Lupin Magnum, I'd be worried they were about to suffer their first Kaiser defeats. Biggin starts firing point blank, rocking the Kaiser a bit, but some machine gun fire pushes him back, as does further machine gun fire from Ex-Emperor Gunner. With some room to breathe, the Lupins form the Lupin Kaiser Splash Magic. They punch the gun right from Biggin's hand, and magic forms a bone, which it throws. Biggin himself doesn't go for it, but his shoulder does, launching itself and the rest of his body skyward to play a game of catch. And by catch, I mean the bone explodes once the shoulder bites it. Red stands up to activate Magic's special attack, which is him. He appears on Magic's hand. Goody says that everyone wants to see Arsene's favorite in action. I'm glad none of the collection pieces are jealous. Red decides to go with it, and activates Lupin Fever again. With one long charge, Red launches the Trickster Big Strike, which burns through Biggin, as well as several mountains. So here's the collection piece that can just destroy a large Ganglar. And it is normal sized. Back at Jour, Kairi is showing his gun to Kogure, who said that Arsene entrusted Magnum to him, which Kairi takes as literally as possible, as he won't even allow Umika to touch it. Kogure leaves, and Tuma mentions the final trap to Noelle. Noelle says that even he has his weaknesses. But we don't end off on that note. The camera backs out the door to Kogure, who gives an immediately suspicious to think he'd obtained the Lupin Magnum. He gets a critical cut in as he mutters Kairi's name, then chuckles to himself as he says that he found quite a talent with him, and walks down the street, still laughing as he goes. Man, that's quite the ominous note to leave off on, considering the subject matter of the next episode.
Hello, my name is Kogure, and I'm definitely not a villain. I'm very trustworthy. So, that was the episode. I don't like it as much as I like episode 30, but it does have an incredible moment.
Yeah. It's a good Kairi moment.
Mm-hmm. Before we talk about that, let's talk about the Ganglar, Kero.
Oh man, he rules. I love his design. I love his personality. He's just really horny for guns.
Mm-hmm. I think we watched this. I'd said something about his suit being from the last Police Sentai. That wasn't true. Mm-hmm. The voice actor voiced a different dog character in the last Police Sentai.
Ah, can typecast, I see.
Yes, the character's name was Doggy Kruger, and he was the police chief.
Oh my god.
Thought I'd give you the old 1-2 punch.
But yeah, considering he is just there to be the gun-themed Gangler for the gun-themed episode, he's just got a whole lot of personality.
Yeah. I think that's, not to state something too obvious, but that's what makes the Ganglars really work, of when they're just fun to watch.
Yeah, like, cool powers are neat and all, and he's got some cool powers, but, like, if he were one of the previous Ganglars who I can barely remember at the moment, then it wouldn't really mean much. But he's got presence, and that just makes all the difference.
So I don't have much else to say about Kerberos. He's fun to watch, but he's not fun to dissect.
Yeah.
Or take apart.
Though I will say, I'm also impressed at the fact that, like, he kind of had to job to the Lupin Magnum, but, like, it's not like some of the other Ganglars who it's just like, oh, they get punched a whole lot by the robot when they're big. Like, he had an actually funny moment with his shoulder just leaping up to get the bone.
Mm-hmm.
So, even in the big fight, again, it's less about the fight itself, because, like, the more fight-focused ones, you just sort of notice that the choreography is a little more boring, considering, the medium they have to work with in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing, just a gag instead, it works out a lot better.
Yeah. But anyways, we learned a lot about Kairi this episode. You might have been able to, guess from earlier episodes, but I feel like this is the one that confirms he's suffering from PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And no one else can tell.
Yeah.
I think that's another interesting part of his mental state, is that in a lot of shows there will be another character to say something about the mental state, because even Automata had the pods talk about 9S.
Yep.
This show, no one really notices or says anything.
Yeah, the closest is Kaiichiro, but he doesn't know anything personal about Kairi. He just knows that he's a little bit troubled and, maybe needs some help every once in a while. He doesn't know exactly what's going on with Kairi.
He doesn't know that Kairi needs more help than Keiichiro can possibly provide.
Yeah. He doesn't know that he should really just direct Kairi to a therapist.
Yeah. Also, this episode ends with him talking to a gun and treating it like a person.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, oh, wacky Kairi. Oh my god, people! Pay attention! He's losing his mind.
Yeah. Also, I believe at one point he basically does do the I love you gun thing. He kisses the gun from behind his mask.
I couldn't remember if that was this episode or the next.
I'm pretty sure it was this episode, because I remember just seeing that in the episode, and having made the joke beforehand, I just could not stop laughing.
Oh, poor Kairi.
But yeah, it does do a really good job at highlighting the usual difference between the Lupin Rangers and the Pat Rangers. Kaiichiro is about helping everyone pretty much at the expense of himself. He kind of forgets himself and his own personal stuff at times. Kairi is after one goal, it's a personal goal, and he's going to do it his way. Kaiichiro has to struggle with, not compromising on his morals to be able to save everyone. Kairi's just like, yeah, crime, it's cool, I'm gonna do it. If it helps my brother, I'm good. But it also...
It really shows the difference in that Lupin Rangers are more fun to watch, but a Power Rangers seems like a much easier job.
Yeah, well, maybe not necessarily an easier job. They've got their work cut out for them, but at the very least, they seem like they're better off mentally.
Yeah.
They don't immediately need the therapy. Yeah, but I also do appreciate the difference between the Lupin Rangers in this one, because, of course, Kairi is the only one who goes through with shooting a loved one, which even Tuma can't do. Which, well, to be fair, that one's obvious, because we know full well that Ai is like the one person he actually truly likes.
Yeah, there's no way he'd be able to do that, but...
Yeah, like, going into it, it's kind of obvious how it would play out, because it's not really giving us new information so much as it is just solidifying it or clarifying it. Because thinking about it, yeah, of course Tuma or Umika couldn't do this, but Kairi could, but, now we have a concrete example of that happening.
Yeah, it was just a matter of we need to see it.
Yep. And of course, although Noelle wasn't in the episode that much, it is interesting to note that there definitely seems to be somebody in his past that he couldn't shoot. Like, it's been implied before that he's in this for the same reason the rest of the Juror trio are. We just don't know who the person is. Other than that, though,
yeah, I'm not sure what else there is to say. This is just...
Yeah, we've talked...
This really is the holy shit episode.
Yeah, we talked about Kairi, and this is the Kairi episode.
Yeah, episode 30 is more, like, fun to pick apart because there's a lot going on. I won't say, like, far beneath the surface. It isn't hard to figure out, but it is there, and you do kind of need to talk about it a little just to get it out there. Mm-hmm. For this, it's like, yeah, Kairi just shot his brother.
Yeah.
He did it to save him, but he was also the only one capable of doing this, and I don't think that's a good thing.
It's fine. He's just shooting his brother's ideals, thus showing that he doesn't have to live by them. Doesn't matter that it's in the image of his brother. Doesn't matter.
It is also interesting of just like, I found out that being a thief and fighting cops is the only thing I'm good at, actually.
This rules and I'm gonna keep doing it. Bang.
Even once you are saved, I'm gonna keep fighting Keijiro. Because I personally enjoy it.
I can get him.
That's gonna get changed in Power Rangers.
I can mess with him on two fronts. I can just annoy him when I'm not a ranger, and when I am a ranger, I can just punch him right in the face, and he won't know. He'll still act like my best friend tomorrow.
You know, this isn't like a new thing. There's tons of examples of this in fiction, but I just really like it in this show. The way Kairi messes with Keijiro. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that sort of does it for me too. Because even though this was a big thing, there's not much to talk about regarding it other than just say what happened.
This is episode Guns.
Episode Guns. Episode Trauma.
Trauma, and also by the Lupin Magnum.
Yeah. Man, the Lupin Rangers have so much trauma together. They're a regular trauma team. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at LRVSPR. Fefter is at Fefter Masamune. I'm not on Twitter, so you can't hear me make terrible references like that. If you want to email us, you can email us at LupinRecap@PatReview@gmail.com. And we will see you in the next episode. Adieu.